to be able to bring the right product, the right quantity at the right price into the right building, which sounds simple, but it's actually quite complicated.
The food job that we're exploring today is Sourcing and Procurement Director. Our guest for this episode is Salma Fotovat, co-founder of Riverside Natural Foods, home of MadeGood. In this episode, you'll learn why sourcing starts months before an ingredient ever reaches production.
And even if we already work with the vendor, that ingredient needs to still go through the rigorous process of getting qualified by our quality team as well as our regulatory team.
Why this role depends on long-term supplier relationships.
Behind every transaction are people. And how do we make sure those people have a good livelihood, that they're being cared for?
And how problem solving under pressure is part of the role.
You jump through hoops to make sure your products are there for production. I think that to me is an adrenaline rush that I can't get anywhere else.
Thank you to Careers Now for sponsoring this podcast episode.
I want to start with some fun facts because I think when we think about Riverside, Riverside was founded in 2012. So we're about 12-year-old company, family owned and operated. And many may not know Riverside. It's probably more of a B2B, so business to business, but many may know MadeGood, which I am supporting today. MadeGood, which is an organic, allergen-free, better-for-you family of snacks. We are Canadian. And I say that this year with a little bit more spunk because I'm a little bit more patriotic this year, but we are Canadian and we're vertically integrated. So all of our products are made right here in Toronto, which is many people are surprised by that, but we do make our own products. We make it right here in Toronto. We have 3 manufacturing facilities that are certified organic and dedicated allergen-free for all our MadeGood snacks. And we have 1 facility that's dedicated for private label. So we also make products for store brands in Canada and the US. So you can find our products in health food stores, retail stores, grocery stores, and even in Air Canada if you fly Air Canada. So that's another fun fact. And we are siblings and we work together and we vacation together, which is also another fun fact. So on the weekends, people will ask, what are you doing this weekend? Well, hang out with my sister. Oh, you didn't get enough from each other during the week, and so we hang out together on weekends, we go on vacation. So it is a full-on family affair.
Wow, that is the fact that you actually want to hang out with each other afterwards is pretty impressive. But I can imagine, you talk work all day. It's not like you're talking like, I don't know, fun stuff. So it's you want to go, hang out and be siblings, not co-workers.
Exactly. You get it. You understand. Yes.
I say that as an only child. But I love the family aspect from it, and you can really feel like, I've done some research prior to this episode and hearing about the building up of the company. It's amazing. But, today we're going to focus on you and your food job. So, give us a little bit of an overview on what your food job is.
My food job that's a great question. It is, the best way I could describe it is the intersection between food, people, and planet. And that's why I get so passionate and excited about my role. First of all, I feel very privileged and very grateful that I get to do this. And I remind myself, I get to do this. It's a privilege. And my day starts, first of all, the only consistent thing in my day is getting up in the morning and running with my husky. That is the first thing I do. And that's probably the only consistent thing, because as soon as I hit the office, it's a whole new day. No day is the same, which I like. I like the diversity. I love the different challenges that come to me. And I have 3 roles, actually, probably 4. So I lead our sourcing team. I lead our procurement team. I also have the privilege of leading our impact team. And I'm one of the co-founders. So any day I could be flying high, flying low, going across, working with our farmers. So I travel a little bit, and that's probably one of the most exciting parts, is really connecting the people behind our value chain to the food we eat, all the way to the grocery stores on shelf. And I think one of the most inspiring things is really listening to the stories of our growers. They are our unsung heroes, especially nowadays with all the climate change, floods, fires, droughts that you hear. To be able to support them, work with them, and for them to actually see the connection between their hard work and how, let's say, for example, our oats that come from the prairies all the way to shelf is a real privilege to be able to do. So it's a lot of connection, collaboration, cooperation within our value chain, and internally it's go go go. We are making product, we are innovating, and trying to keep up with demand, which is I always have to remind myself is a great problem to have.
That indeed is true. That means that you're growing. But one thing that you said that I have to ask the question about is that you said you have a sourcing team and a procurement team. And then, sorry if the third one was the people, but to me, the words sourcing and procurement are the same words. So it sounds kind of confusing why you have two different teams. Would you be able to just elaborate on the differences there?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it was all under one umbrella when we were a bit smaller, and it worked because you had the same folks. So for us, sourcing is really looking out into the networks, identifying the right companies to work with, the right ingredients. And then it's really around the building of the relationships, it's the strategic portion of the supply chain, contracting. So we do actually multi-year contracts. So it's a little bit more involved. We also work with them to see how we can have impact projects with them. So especially with ingredients in agriculture space, we really want to have them be supported as much as possible. We wouldn't be where we are without them. So it's really, so that world and that type of strategy is a bit of a unique skill set and actually just creates a lot of focus. So we said sourcing would do more of the strategic, the relationships, the contracts, and more around, that's why we call it actually responsible sourcing, to bring the sustainability under the umbrella of sourcing. Then we have procurement, which is also critical, but that starts once the contract is in place, and to be able to bring the right product, the right quantity at the right price into the right building, which sounds simple, but it's actually quite complicated.
I can imagine.
Procurement team, and that is actually a larger team because you have to make sure that across all our plants, all our sites, everyone gets what they need ahead of time, and it's all quality checked and everything. So that is a whole host of other activities. So we have a dedicated team that does that work, and then we have our impact team, small but mighty, but we do that team really sets out our corporate impact strategy and really helps embed sustainability and impact where we work, which is all around people and the planet within Riverside and within our brand. So that's our impact team. So those are the three. But you only asked about sourcing and procurement, but that's...
No, that's okay. The third one's just as important. And it's a good thing to clarify because when you're sourcing the different items, you don't just like open up a catalog and say, I want to buy some, I don't know, the strawberries. You have to find the source, the amount, and another big factor, of course, you have the sustainability aspect. It's not just a matter of picking out the ingredients, but, there's that people behind it. So tell me about it. Like, where did that importance come from? Because a lot of people might just choose they want the cheapest ingredient, but for you, there's another step, there's another layer. So you also have to think about the costs, but as well as the people behind it. So tell me, like, where did that decision come from?
I love that you asked me that because that actually goes back, and you may not be ready for this, but it goes back a couple of decades.
Okay,
It goes back
I'm
a couple
ready.
of decades because we didn't just wake up one morning in 2012 and say, "Hey, it'll be really great if we just start manufacturing organic snack bars." Yeah, that sounds like something we could get behind. No, this was 20 years in the making. We're immigrant family from Iran. So when we moved here in the 80s, my dad started his own business, which was in the food space, and over time gradually morphed into an organic fruit and nut products. So they were certified organic back in 90s. And the three of us, so my siblings and I, organically got our way into working at the family business. So really, we grew up in the manufacturing floor. And why I bring this up is because we didn't go to business school. I didn't study supply chain per se. I did courses after the fact, but really organically grew up in that world and got to see firsthand that a business can do so much more than just make a profit. right? That we saw our dad taking care of our employees, giving back and giving forward to communities. It didn't, the company wasn't making a ton of money at the very beginning, like very modest, but whatever, however he could, he used that business as a vehicle for good. And that was something that was inspiring. It was motivating that, wow, this is possible. When a lot of things happened in between that, but we got the opportunity, a second chance to do this ourselves and continue on that legacy that my dad instilled in us, that a business should be a vehicle for good. And you have a responsibility that if you're going to take from the environment, you got to regenerate. You got to give back. You got to make sure everyone is cared for, that their livelihoods of every person within that supply chain are taken care of. That is a responsibility of a business. So growing up in organic, it just that's how, and we got lucky. We got to really create that foundation and that purpose-driven company right from day one, which is a lot easier than trying to, build on top of something that may not quite be the same.
Thank you for sharing that because I know that you summarized it within like 2 minutes, 1 minute, but I know that there's been so many experiences that have grown through it, and emulating what your parents have done, like that's such a good source of inspiration to like, you have the values already within you. And one of the things I wanted to ask about is like what drew you to wanting to be in this side of the business? Because I heard about a nice story about how your siblings kind of naturally fell into roles within that you really enjoyed, but for you it's procurement. And as you mentioned, it wasn't something that you went into school for. So
That's
I feel
right.
like a lot of people might not even know they like it unless they're exposed to it. So tell me, like, how did you find a love for the procurement side and what keeps you within this role?
So it totally happened by accident. I think between the three of us, we went to where the business needed us at that point in time. My brother navigated towards sales and marketing, my sister on the manufacturing floor, and me being the youngest sibling, it's like, okay, what's left? Oh, you got to start with customer service. I started to do that. Then I took over some purchasing. So I was just cutting POs and inventory. So I got into supply chain. Then when we got a little bit more sophisticated into demand and supply planning. However, but what really inspired me, and that's where I really found my passion, was the procurement side of things, where there was a ton of problem solving. I loved that no 2 day was the same, but the rush of making sure that you jump through hoops to make sure your products are there for production. I think that to me is an adrenaline rush that I can't get anywhere else. So that was exciting, but at the same time, really those relationships. I got to go back to those relationships because you really get to meet so many great people in this industry, and to be able to see so many companies grow as a result of you growing, right? So Riverside, as an example, we've grown double digits year over year, which is great. But the beautiful part is so have many other companies that are alongside us that are vendor partners. So they've come along the journey with us and seeing the benefit and that collaboration, learning from them, right? So to have the privilege of being in that network while in procurement, because you get to work with all the vendors, you're just so well connected, and you get to learn so much. You also get to learn so much from them. So it's just that problem solving, continuous learning, and I'm humbled every day. It's just there's so much to learn. There's so much to learn, and yeah, it's really exciting.
I could see why that would be something that you would love within because when you're in school, you might have like classmates you might grow with, but then, you see one teacher, you do kind of that I don't want to say that, but the transaction, you finish school and then you kind of move on. But as you grow that business, if you're sticking with it, to see the people each year, ask how the holiday was, and then seeing them grow with you, I could see that being a very rewarding experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This week's episode is brought to you by our friends at Careers Now, an incredible resource for anyone looking to explore the wide variety of career paths in Ontario's food and beverage industry. From hands-on production roles and quality assurance to management, marketing, and everything in between, Careers Now can help you discover the opportunities that match your skills and interests. Whether you're considering post-secondary programs, apprenticeships, or jumping straight into the workforce, they provide guidance on the skills employers are looking for and how to connect with local opportunities. If you're curious about the many different ways that you can turn your passion for food and beverage into a rewarding career, then head over to careersnow.ca and start exploring how you can turn your passion into profession today. Huge thanks to Careers Now for sponsoring this episode and supporting the show. Could you just talk a little bit more about how you source an ingredient? That might be a really big question, but just I'm trying to paint a picture.
Absolutely. No, I love that question. And let's take an example. Perfect. It's coming to the holiday season. Let's say a red chocolate chip.
Okay.
R&D wants to create a seasonal item and they want to put a red chocolate chip in a product. Wonderful. The first things first is this product available with a vendor that's already qualified? So if it is, much easier because we've already, from a food safety, quality, third-party certifications, we're good. If that's the case, that actually shaves off several months of back and forth. Because of our brand, we're allergen-free, we're organic, we're kosher, we're non-GMO, we're vegan. So there's a lot of certifications that we have to make sure that our vendors are also compliant with. So that is a lot of regulatory food safety work that has to be done. And even if we already work with the vendor, that ingredient needs to still go through the rigorous process of getting qualified by our quality team as well as our regulatory team. So that's on the certification and food safety side. And then we have to get approval from our R&D team. So how does this ingredient behave in the product if we're making a cookie? Is it going to keep the color? Is it going to be bake stable through the production line? Is it going to fit through the funnel to come down? So they do trials. So depending on how tricky or functional the ingredient is, they may do a lab trial where it's just, like you're cooking at home and they'll say product is good, no problem. Or if it's more functional or more sophisticated, they actually have to book time at the plant to get that done, and that could take weeks. Then you satisfy your friends in R&D, and then you got to still work with a vendor to make sure that you get the lead time, the minimum order requirements. So something like a red chocolate chip, if it's unique and special, they may have to do big runs. And if you're only doing a holiday product, I only need 100 kilos. And they're like, no, your minimum order is 1,000. You got to try to figure that out. So with all of this work in parallel, we try to also make sure there's that feasibility in the supply chain for sourcing and procurement. So the rest of the team doesn't work too far ahead. And then we find out, we can't buy it because the minimum order is too much. So the right price, the right quantity, lead times are adequate for when we want to launch the product. And then once that's done, it goes to procurement, and then they start to put in the PO and get the product in. So that's really the journey that we have to go to. It could be as quick as 2-3 months, or it could take a year.
Wow.
I really hope it doesn't take years. But, we're trying to make that process as quick as possible, because part of how we want to position ourselves as a company is we want to continue to stay agile. So these things, we want to find ways to do them faster without compromising the integrity of the process.
Wow. Okay. That again, it's a small summary that you're giving, but I can imagine in the day-to-day, it's just it's a lot of moving parts because you have to keep up with the demands of the plant and then the holiday season. And it's you can't just put it off for 2-3 months. It's the holiday season, I'm not prepared for it. So the planning, how far in advance do you try to get ingredients for a run? It would be a while, I would imagine.
Yeah, if it's a new ingredient, I think, and it's a special item for the vendor, it could take 2-3 months. Or if it's something they already have on shelf, it could be really quick. I think that's the nuance is how do we do things in a way that save us time? So there's a lot of parallel pathing. There's, you know, being a bit smarter around choosing what types of ingredients you're using. There's a balance between innovation and novelty, but also availability. We don't want to
Right.
go too niche and too specific that, oh my gosh, something happens and we can't get that product. Then we're not able to deliver to our customers, and that's also not good. So
It's
absolutely a
true.
balancing act, right? To
Yeah.
try to keep all these balls in the air.
Yeah, and one thing that I came across was that you have, if I'm not mistaken, like six frameworks or six pieces that help direct your source to how you do it, like materials, price, place, quality, partner. Is that something that you live by? Where did that come from?
That came by the nature of the work. I think they all have to be in place.
Hmm.
They just it's a for I guess it's a formula. I don't know if it's a formula. It's just something
Right.
that we kind of abide by. But some of them I would categorize as negotiable, some of them non-negotiable. Uh, like quality, food safety, the fact that the organic integrity, non-negotiable. From a time, MOQs, pricing, there can be some flexibility. So it's just a matter of making sure that on the whole, these requirements are satisfied, and it will continue. So I'm sure we will have more than six principles
That's
because
true.
we're starting to add and be really mindful about social and environmental due diligence within our value chain. So we're going to start to even demand more around, not demand, I don't mean it, highly encourage and really
Okay.
work with our partners to start to look at that traceability and transparency within our value chain. So those things will again become a requirement, and I would assume they would become non-negotiables. So we'll have a list of non-negotiables that we need to comply well, and obviously we need to have that flexibility because we want to stay agile and be able to support the demand of our consumers.
As we're speaking about being agile and being able to move around, is just talking about, I know that you enjoy doing problem solving within your job, but I can imagine that there are challenges that do come across with that. Would you be able to share maybe some of the challenges that you come across in your role and how you navigate those?
The challenges within supply chain. Wow.
Yes, I know that's a big question. I guess what
How
I'm trying
many
to paint,
hours do you have? No, I'm kidding. I'm
we don't
kidding.
gotta
I don't want
we can go all night. No, I kid, but no, I guess what I'm trying to do is just paint again a picture because I can see that you
absolutely.
love the parts of your job, but being a little realistic to it about some of the challenges and just maybe I'm giving you a chance to shine here. That's what I'm
Oh,
trying to
I
say.
appreciate that. I think one of the biggest challenges that I faced, and I would say honestly in my career so far, was back in 20, just after the pandemic, I believe, where there was a severe drought in the prairies, and which is where we got all our organic oats. And Made Good is all about oats. We don't have oats, we have no Made Good.
Oh my gosh.
So
Okay.
you can imagine the level of stress that I had when we learned that, oh my God, 50% of the crop is destroyed. That yield, the yield's just not there. And,
Hmm.
I'm doing this rinse and repeat every year. Everything is fine. And even the growers were like, we're going to get rain. It's going to be fine. And then unbeknownst to all of us, like, nope, the crop is essentially a failure. And that was probably the closest I got to really losing it.
Okay.
So this is me frantically. So we already have a pretty well-established network. So trying to call people and being like, hey, do you know anyone? And again, being made good in Riverside, it has to be organic, it has to be allergen free. So gluten free is big on the oat side. So even right from the farm. So we have these rigorous standards. So we can't just call anybody and say,
Right.
hey, just send us some bushel of oats. It's got to still maintain. So the non-negotiables still have to be there. So back and forth, finally, one company was able to come through with us and be able to at least get us product until we were able to stabilize. But that was probably one of the scariest times and it was because I wasn't, I just didn't factor that. I just did not in my mind ever think that this could happen. And that was the real moment for me that, wow, climate change that can really and does really impact the whole value chain. And that really sparked more of that impact projects for us to really work with our farmers to make sure that they're supported. Because forget Riverside and MadeGood, those farmers, that's their whole livelihood as well. That's gone in just one season. So that was probably the scariest. But thank goodness, I still love those partners that came through for us. I talk to them all the time and they're lovely. So, but yeah, that was one of them.
Wow. I think that also brings up the importance of that people aspect in your role because I think, again, you could maybe someone might not think that this role is like a people facing, like you're talking to your different vendors, you're all that, and you can go like it's another way for someone if they wanted to be in touch and talking with people, but not necessarily sales, but they still want to be with those like building of
Mm,
relationships and how important it is for your role. Because honestly,
100%.
if maybe if the vendors don't like you as well, they're just like, I don't want to pick up the phone for this person.
Absolutely. I love that you bring this up, Veronica, because I will go back to the pandemic when um, there was just a big disruption, right? Like there was nothing was coming in and out. Everybody was just so uncertain. And I kid you not, it was those relationships that really saved us because, again, being unique and specific with what we need, we can't
Hmm.
just go to anybody. And they showed up for us in a way that I never expected. Like, oh, it's Riverside, we'll put you first. I'm like, what, how, what, thank you. Like it was amazing. It was so humbling and I was just so taken aback by how much all our vendors wanted to support us during that time. It was unbelievable, but in retrospect, like these are 20-year relationship. It actually, there's some partners that we've had from the previous business that carried on
Wow.
to this business. So that loyalty, that networking, and I actually really care about our partners. I'm sometimes that just after so many years, you get to know them. They're amazing individuals, and you want them to succeed, and they're there for you. So they really came to bat for us, and one other thing I wanted to mention was when you were talking about networking and sales, I sometimes I do feel like I'm a salesperson,
Okay. Huh.
right? Because I have to, when there's so much competition and everybody wants the same thing, why do they need to choose us, right? And we don't have a plethora of options. So we really have to make sure that we sell ourselves as well so that we get a bit of that pie as well. So that's it is a people think that oh you're in procurement or you're in sourcing so you get to have the final say and
Hmm.
you have the power, but it's not like that. And I wouldn't want that to be the
Right.
case, right? It's really a partnership and it's really win-win. The part I love most about this role is the fact that you get to create this win-win outcomes when working with partners because it is possible and it is so energizing when you come to a deal or an agreement where both sides are excited. Like I don't know,
I love
that's cool.
that. But I have to ask like a little bit more about it, just from like what other aspects make up a partnership in this sense where, they're providing, let's just say the oats, because that's something that you mentioned. And, we say we have these good relationships, and I could imagine it's, paying someone on time, being accountable, being like, what makes a good relationship both for your side and as well for the
Mhm.
vendors?
That's a great question. It's you said it. It's really keeping your word. It's respect for the other side. I feel like paying your vendors on time. Really powerful
Yeah.
because they rely on that. They also have to run their business, same as our customers who, if they don't pay us on times, it delays things and it does really impact the business. So really pay your vendors on time. If you're going to say you're going to do something, do it, right? So we provide as much visibility and as we can with forecasts and give them a bit more preparedness, right? So, oh, we got big promotions coming up, or help them to help you type of thing. So that's Also, another thing when we also have regular, either weekly, monthly, quarterly business reviews. And one powerful question I always ask is, are we good customers? What can we do to be better partners for you? So it's that reciprocity of making sure you're also good customers for them. I think that's important, and that's that mentality that, hey, we're all here to we're all here for the same thing. We all want our businesses to thrive, and I think it's when we work together, when we respect each other and know what the other needs and be able to provide that. I think that really helps the relationship. And also, sorry, you got me on this now. I got one more thing to
Let's do
say.
it. Let's do it. I'm ready.
It's also through the tough times. How do you show up through tough times, whether it's price increases or they don't have the product for you when they said, or, or something happened out of their control, they're not able to deliver, or there's a bit of a conflict. How you resolve that with respect and integrity and communication and collaboration? I think that speaks volumes to the health of that relationship, partnership.
How, like, again, it's another big question, but it's just how do you manage it? Because when things get really busy, I can feel like the courtesies, I guess you could say, of a relationship could go away. Like, I don't want to say necessarily being rude, but when things get really busy, it's hard to put in that time for the relationships. Is it just something you put on your calendar and say, like, I'm giving them the 30 minutes? But like, how do you make sure that your vendors are getting the care and attention that they need even when things are getting busy?
I think you got to prioritize them. And it sounds a lot easier than and I don't get it right all the time. Trust me.
Okay.
Like it's hard. It's
Okay.
hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's hard. Do I miss emails? Yes. Do I miss phone calls and have to, 2 days later, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Yes, I know I said I would call. Absolutely. It happens. But at the same time, that even if I do fall or if I miss something, I'm still going to pick up the phone and at least acknowledge it. Hey, I'm so sorry. I know I was supposed to call you, etc. But to me, those relationships are gold. And I will do whatever. I will prioritize. I will make the time. Maybe I don't have half an hour. Let's have a quick call, 15 minutes, check in. How is it going? What do we need to do? Or at least make sure that everything's okay. I think it's just, if you are prioritizing it, it will get done. If you get swept away with so many other things, it happens, but at least acknowledging it and having that accountability, I think is powerful at the end of the day. And I will always say one of my pet peeves is when people don't say hello and thank you in emails. And
Okay.
I've trained my team, not trained them, but I've highly encouraged and really expect our teams every time when you're talking to anybody, especially our vendors, the courtesy and the respect is non-negotiable.
Writing the note down, writing the note down. But I do agree, because especially when when you're in email, it's so easy to take it, like, misunderstand or like you can see someone's email and they did not mean it in that way, but they take it that way. So I think, thank you, how it's hard to it's a thank you. So I
Yeah,
could see that
yeah,
being important.
yeah.
And then one thing I also wanted to bring around, because you mentioned it earlier and I didn't get the chance to talk about it, was just you were talking about helping the farmers, like, help them, and you said with their impact. And it was just, there was something that you were mentioning earlier, that it's not only important to, like, they have their own needs, and then we were talking about the climate change, and your Riverside is helping with that. I'd love to just tease that out a little bit more, to say, how are you helping them grow their business, or help with the climate change piece?
Absolutely. So I'm a firm believer that our growers, our farmers are at the front line of climate change. So really, everything that's happening, that we all experience through throughout the last several years, especially, is these radical extreme weather conditions that could. And I remember walking through a hemp field one summer, and then a week later getting a message from one of the growers that their whole crop was completely wiped down. And if you know hemp crops, they were taller than me. They're like 6, 7 feet. These things are
Mm-hmm.
monsters. Can
Okay.
wipe out in 20 minutes. So it's a really, in my opinion, it is tough work that they do, and it's such imperative work that they do. Without them, we have no food, plain and simple. And then to take that a step further, soil health, biodiversity, clean water, clean air, all of those things work in tandem and work together for us to have the food that we need. So us being in the food business, there's a big sense of responsibility to support our growers, especially through these challenging times. They should not have to bear the burden on their own. And we're trying to come up with different ways that we can collaborate. It's not just, oh, they need help and let's go help them. It's like, hey, what are the barriers that you're facing? Because those barriers will end up impacting us selfishly. It will impact MadeGood and Riverside. So why don't we work together, build communities of practices? Because some of these farmers are also isolated. They don't have that network to continuously improve their practices. So there's a whole movement around organic regenerative practices where it's really focused on soil health and biodiversity so that the crops can be more resilient within these extreme weather patterns. So how do we bring those practices and educational seminars to the farmers? So those are things that we're working on to kind of support them and bring them together so they can also collaborate, problem solve, so that they are also feel supported and have the resources that they need to continue on this journey.
I love that. And thank you so much for sharing that and clearing it up a little bit more. Because you are right. Like the farmers, they're the ones producing the food. And I think that we forget that our food does come from farms and it does come from very hardworking professionals, farmers like across the whole agricultural chain. And, they need our support as well. If we're going to continue to have our eating habits and we want to do good, we need to support the people that are growing our food. So it's so nice to hear that you're thinking about not only the people that you support within your own company, but even before it gets to where you are. So I love that. And, it makes me think as well to the future and in the future of maybe your role and where you're thinking about moving forward is like, how do you see your role evolving over the next years? I mean, that is probably a very, who knows where the future is going to hold, but are there skills that you're working on right now? Is there anything that you're looking to try to, focus on for the future?
Absolutely. Like I mentioned, it is a continuous learning, continuous improvement journey. I'm learning literally every day. But one thing that I'm more intentional of and really feel we do need to move the needle on is really uncovering our value chain from a social and environmental due diligence. So there are going to be regulations, there's going to become more demand on businesses, and I'm all for that to really the transparency and ethical practices. So those are you no longer can get away with just stating things that, oh, we're ethical or there's ethical sourcing. You have to now start to really document and show that you're really doing the work necessary to provide that transparency. So there's a lot of some taking courses and educating myself. We built a 5-year roadmap on a social due diligence within the value chain within Riverside. So that's a whole new world for me. Never thought that I would have to get into that, but it's necessary, and that's where the world is going. And you really need to know as much as possible about your value chain and who are you, and as we grow, who are we making rich? Where are the who are we supporting and making sure that again behind every transaction are people. And how do we make sure those people have a good livelihood, that they're being cared for? So those are, I feel like where the sourcing procurement role will have to evolve a little bit. Risk management is another one. Adaptability. So these may not be. So the technical skill sets will always be there. Your negotiations, business acumen. Those are foundational. But I think from social due diligence, environmental impact, traceability, de-risking your supply chain, all of those activities and requirements, I think will become a lot more part of this role in the future.
Wow. It's again, it's so interesting to think that with a role like yours, it's not just like you said those technical skills, but if you want to have an impact, you can go into procurement. Like we think of, the jobs that have impact being something like maybe doctors or nurses. And of course, very, very important by no means. But, maybe that's not the way you want to help others, but maybe it's helping the environment through procuring better like ingredients and social. And it now it makes me think like, oh, maybe those extra courses you take in university on like sociology, you might not think that they're important, but it puts into perspective different ways of looking at the world. And who would think, I'm sorry, but who would think that that's so important to procurement, like what you can take from
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. A lot about relationships, communication, is also a big one that those are skill sets that will make you really successful in
Yeah.
procurement.
And honestly, it sounds fun. Like, I mean, like, I don't know. It's fun to learn about different people, different ways of doing things, and it sounds like, as you mentioned, you're always learning something, and you can change, and you can. It's exciting to think that you can change a company, and companies can make impacts. Like they play a role, and where you source things is just so important.
Yeah, it's a very impactful role, and you can make a difference, positive or negative, depending on the decisions you make. But there's a lot of power there, and with that power comes great responsibility. And but absolutely, you can use it to you can really do good with it.
As we're getting close to the end of our conversation is just thinking about pieces of advice. So for those who are wanting to get into a role that's similar to yours, like what skills do you think they should be start developing now, or maybe a piece of advice? So actually, let's make it a two-part question. We'll do a skills question. So what skills do you think they should be focusing on right now so they can do well in your role? And then what is just a general piece of advice you would give?
Wow. So I think from a skill set, I don't know if this is a skill set, but critical thinking, I don't know how you
Okay.
how you study for that. However, I do feel that as our supply chains becomes more complex and and we're so interconnected, and I think, yes, it's critical thinking, problem solving, de-risking. So anything in that realm, I think becomes really a competitive advantage and really set you apart from others. Technology and AI is another one that I'm sure in every role in every industry will play a part, but you don't want to be falling behind, and you want to be able to leverage it, not to replace the work you do, but to enhance the work that you do. I think always keeping up with that is important. And then I would go to sustainability, and because again, I feel like that is such a powerful portion of supply chain, and it will become even more relevant. So the more you know about the regulations that are coming up that impact procurement and sourcing, I think that will put you above the rest. I think that'll prepare you definitely for the future, because that's where we're heading. So that was the advice question. What was the second part?
I think that was the skill question, and then it kind of
That was the
moved
skill.
into the advice. I think I was going for like general advice in terms of maybe those like, I don't know. You think I could think of a piece of advice right now? I always say, like, for example, is that like one of the things I hear a lot in the podcast is being able to effectively communicate. I think that
Right.
gets that's always something being able to present yourself. So, but I feel like you did the two questions in one already. But unless there is any general advice I missed.
I think I would also add in adaptability. I think especially again in business and within the ever-changing world that we operate and live in, adaptability is table stakes. And I think and one way you can do that is not through business, is also just trying new things. The ability to fail and get up again is so powerful. And to be able to be agile and adaptable and keep going, keep moving forward, that grit is priceless. So the more you can do that within your life, it's not a course you take, it's just how you look at life and how you say yes to life and you lean in on different things. The more hard things you do, the more resilient you are, the more adaptable you are. And that's good. Procurement, supply chain, you name it, I think that's useful.
Again, I think that your role is so, like, I don't even think I was introduced to your role when I was in high school, nor like university. So who knows? Maybe in another world, I maybe would have thought of it. Maybe who knows what the future holds. It sounds like it's done very well for you, and it's really exciting to see how much Riverside Natural Foods has grown, made good. I feel like you're everywhere. I feel like everywhere I look, I hear you. So it's great to see a company doing well for itself, as well as putting the
Thank
people
you.
behind it, and looking to the future, not just to do better business, but also to do better for all those around. So thank you so much, Selma, for coming on the show, telling me about your food job. I loved learning more about it, and I hope that those listening learned a lot as well.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Thanks for the opportunity. I had a blast.